Hey guys, I'm back. Good to be back from Mexico. Unfortunately, I couldn't do the last dev update because I was very jet lagged. I was like falling asleep as I was trying to do it, so probably best to wait until this week, and feeling much better now. So yeah, happy to be here to give you a little update on the goings-ons. On session, we have some really good news, which is everything for user configuration is now through QA. So that basically just happened in the last day or so. And that means the next stage we're moving to for user configuration is some internal testing. And we're making a few modifications in the code base to make that happen, because the way that user config activates is based on a Unix timestamp. So we do this release, make sure it gets to everyone, and then after a certain amount of time it activates. We just need to make sure that we activate it straight away for ourselves, and then also don't revert when we ourselves update to the new version 2. So we're making those changes internally now, and we're going to start testing with our devices so that it'll be everyone on the team. And hopefully that'll let us catch some of the edge cases. We're probably going to release to power users as well once we've done a bit of internal testing. So hopefully we'll find all of the bugs there. But yeah, really good news. And because that user configuration stuff is done now, we can take the existing code that we built for disappearing messages and start porting in the new user config approach that we're using. So we kind of pause disappearing messages so that we can have the user configuration stuff, because it would make disappearing messages more stable, especially when syncing like your disappearing message settings between your different devices. So we're going through the disappearing message code now and updating it with the new approaches. And that's going really well as well. So yeah, the user config stuff is like the first step to a lot of tasks that are coming down the line, and that includes closed groups as well, which rely on the user config stuff to be able to do some of the syncing of the ephemeral keys which are used in closed groups. So yeah, lots of good news on the session front, and also there's a bunch of bug fixes that are coming through on the Android side which have been merged, just small user interface stuff. Some ANRs being resolved on Android, and some crashes and animation fixes being resolved on iOS as well. So huge stuff for us on session. Yeah, on the Oxen core side, we have basically been running a little bit slow because the main developer on Oxen core has been away for the last 2 weeks on holiday. But we're getting back into it now. The ledger audit is kind of stuck a little bit on the kind of understanding of the scope, because a lot of the code that we inherited for the Oxen wallet for Ledger is inherited from Monero, which is already in Ledger. They're trying to understand if they need to provide comments on the Monero code that we're using, or if it's just the diff between the Monero code and the Oxen code that we have. So we're trying to understand with them. They're talking to Ledger, and Ledger's a bit slow to respond. So we're just working through that side of things. And then yeah, Sean's working on some interesting kind of multi-signature based stuff, some design elements that we're looking at for potentially representing the Oxen state, so it can be validated on different blockchains that we're looking at as well. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff going on in Oxen, and the pace is picking up now that Sean's back. On LokiNet, we have made some really good progress on libquickynet, which is replacing a portion of the wire protocol. And actually Dan, who's developing libquickynet, is now at a point where he's about to deploy kind of a test communications between two nodes, so that he can start sending information over that quick tunnel/stream that he's created. And he's designed it in a modular way as well, so that we can change out elements of the cryptography to, and that's all kind of reaching its more final state now, and a state that we can test it in. So that's looking really good. Jeff is continuing on a platform, like the platform refactor that he's been working on for the last month or so. And Tom found quite a serious issue with packet ordering as well in LokiNet, which he's investigating a fix for now, and also investigating the core reason that packets are being sent in a misordered way, which can end up closing connections that don't need to be closed. So yeah, lots of progress there as well. Also, one note, we're also working on the session push notification server as well. Jason's working on that, so that's taking shape now, and hopefully we'll have an Android client implementation for that new push notification approach very soon. But yeah, I think that just about rounds it off. Lots of stuff going on this week, and it's really good that user configuration is starting to materialize, and we're going to start internally testing it for sessions. So yeah, big stuff. I'll throw it over to Josh for the next part. Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, so last week was a big week actually. We focused on refreshing our target audiences, target audience profiles, just to make sure that any promotional campaigns that we're doing, we're targeting the right people, the right audiences for that. It's something that we've already got target profiles, but it's something that you kind of want to check in on every so often just to make sure it's up to date. Are you still targeting the right people that you're trying to target? Because sometimes as the product changes, things can shift a little bit here and there. So we've just been looking at that, just making sure that things are the right fit for us. And it's also really cool because we've got a lot of first-hand data that we can use and that we've been using just to make sure that the target profiles that we've got actually fit with the audience that seem to attract to us in the first place. So that's a lot of that's some of the stuff that we were doing last week. Also, Session finally has a Wikipedia entry. It's been like a whole long process. It's been a while. A part of why it's taken so long too is because it's largely out of our hands. We're gated out of that process. It seems like Wikipedia have a pretty strict process that they abide by when it comes to setting up new entries, creating new entries like that. But now that we actually have one, we're planning to make a bunch of changes just to make sure the information's up to date, and also that we can get just as much information into that page as possible, because that's actually going to be a main point of contact for a lot of people who don't know about Session, is going to that Wikipedia page. So we've been planning around doing that and refreshing that up, or not refreshing, but like putting stuff into that. On top of that, we also last week got an application together for the Internet Society Fund. Connecting with these guys seem like a pretty good fit because they generally work with projects that enhance internet freedom. So that's what we are. And yeah, so we've been getting an application for that. The extra money from the funding proposal is nice, but realistically, that's not what this is really about. We have enough runway to do the things that we want to do, but what it means when we go and get these funding proposals is it allows us a chance to connect and build relationships with these organizations, because that can be particularly tricky for us, especially when they live on the other side of the world from us. And so doing this application, these kind of applications mean they just intrinsically, they look into the project and they really look in to figure out what we're about, and then they get a sense of us, and then we get to talking, and then it can open up doors with other people as well. So that's the main benefit that we find from doing these. On the relationship front though, we actually last week met up with the guys over at Quiet, which is another decentralized privacy application. It's kind of an alternative to Slack, a private alternative to Slack, and those guys seemed really, really cool. So that's another relationship that we want to keep fostering, because maybe there might be something that we can do with those guys. It's not really clear yet, but it seems like the projects seem to like each other to begin with. One of the things though, it seems like it might potentially open some doors for us for meeting some other projects doing a similar thing to us in the space as well. So that was a cool thing that we managed to do last week. Of course, alongside all of this, we've been working on the promotional campaigns that we're going to launch around the Oxen refresh when that comes out. So that's just something that keeps getting chugged along with. Also, finally, Key and Alex came back from Monerotopia. So we've been checking out their footage, trying to turn it into content that we can share with you guys. Unfortunately, but also this is pretty understandably, a lot of the people that we met at Monerotopia are really conscious and protective of their privacy. So we have less stuff to work with than we would have liked to. I mean, this was always a potential consideration factor that we were taking into account. So it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is when you go to these kind of privacy things. But on top of that, we still made a whole bunch of good connections while we were there. So we've kind of been following up on them in the last week. One of the really cool aspects about Monerotopia, both Key and Alex mentioned that the majority of people there seem to already be aware of Session, and both Alex and Key were recognized personally while they were going around. People would just come up to them and chat to them. So that's cool to see the kind of traction that Session has firsthand like that. And we've actually got another conference coming up in a couple weeks in Chiang Mai. So it'll be cool to see if Session has a similar level of traction in with that crowd. But in the meantime, what we've been doing is just getting materials ready for that conference, and also just getting our talks down and getting them all prepared for that too. So yeah, that's basically it from me this week. I'll see you guys next time, and potentially next time, actually, perhaps it might be Alex coming in from Chiang Mai. So who knows? We'll see. But I'll see you guys around when I see you. Peace.